Hi and welcome back to the Potential podcast from thought to execution. Today we've got another special guest. As you know, we only get the best guests on here. So, Jen, would you like to introduce yourself, what you do, and how you like to spend your time?
So I'm Jen, I'm 30. I have two little girls, identical twins. They're a handful, and for my work, I make handmade children's work.
That's it, yeah.
That's me.
The thing is with that, you sort of underplay that. You say, "Oh yeah, I'm a mum and I sort of do this," but there's a lot to it, and you've done really well for yourself. You know what I mean? You've got quite a lot on your plate, but you seem to have built quite a bit of a brand and an industry, aren't you? I mean, just
thank you very much.
No, it's all right. So I want to know, how did it all begin? That's my quarter question, because a lot of people, they'll talk themselves out of things when they want to start something like that. Do you know what I mean? How did it begin? What's the story?
With work?
Yeah.
So, before I worked for myself, before I was self-employed, I worked for a leotard company. And I worked for those for maybe 5 years. So I was designing for gymnasts. And me and Steve had IVF to get our little girls. And then we had the miracle, which is identical twins. It's crazy. And then after that, we got pregnant, and then you start to look at going back to work, and the cost of childcare is just extortionate. So when I was working for the leotard company, I'd always kind of done bits and pieces of sewing for everybody anyway, so I just kind of built upon that and progressed. And then when we had the girls, I'd always wanted to make their clothes. But it took me ages to find a good fabric supplier. And then when I found one, that was it. I was just away, and I fell in love with doing it. So do you know what? I'm gonna go somewhere with this, because everybody always said to me that they were dressed really nice. Do I sell the stuff? And I was like, no, not really. And everyone kept saying to me, well, you should do. You do all right with it. Like, you should sell it. So I thought, right, okay, I'll do it. I buy fabric for the kids anyway.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, and it's nothing lost, because I'll just make whatever again, and they'll just, grow into it, kind of thing. But it did, and slowly and steadily, it's just building and building. So, touch wood, it's going all right.
That's awesome. I think you've touched on some impressive things there. So, for one, it started off with sort of a hard situation, because you had to decide to leave work because of the childcare issues, which is. Yeah. The cost is ridiculous. It's maybe worth it to get someone to look after your kids, but at the same time, it's hard to cover for a lot of people. You know what I mean? But with you working at the place you did develop the skills and stuff like that. Although I'm sure that's not all the story. I'm sure you've picked some stuff up in your own time. You know what I mean? Like you've got to adapt when you're doing it yourself, rather than a business that just says, "Do this for me, do that for me." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's definitely a big part of it is developing your skill sets and getting to know the thinger. But was it that people always came to you saying, oh yeah, I want one of these, I want one of that? Was that what made you think I could do this for my own business? Because, I mean, how easy is it to talk yourself out of a business idea and actually doing it? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, to talk myself out of it would have been so easy. It would have been, absolutely. I could have done it at the drop of the hat, but in life, you're never ever going to get anywhere unless you push yourself out of your comfort zones and you take risks and you take chances. I mean, we've just bought a house, and we bought this house and we hadn't even looked at it, and Steve keeps going round and he's telling everybody, and he's like, everybody thinks you're crazy, Jen, because within an afternoon I'd put our house on the market, arranged for viewings, and then I think a week later or 2 weeks later, we'd put an offer in another house that we hadn't even seen, and he was like, you're just not right. Like, it'll be fine. Don't worry.
That's class.
Probably a bit of a risk taker.
No, you're right. That is a big risk when you've not even seen the property, but let's say if you've gone for it and it's done well, like, why not? You know what I mean? That's all right. Yeah, that does sound a bit mad, to be fair, but you know, why not? It's the opportunity's there.
Yeah, I do think you have got to take risks, and you have got to. It's just so easy, isn't it, to talk yourself out of things?
Yeah.
It really is easy to talk yourself out of things, but you have to push yourself, and you've got to, in a way, I suppose, you have got to make yourself uncomfortable. And if these things fail, then it doesn't matter, because at least you've tried.
What a massive message, you know what I mean? You can't. I always say stuff like this. I'm always trying to, you know, inspire people to start their own passions or even skills. Like people I know who's developed quite a good skill, and I just look at them and say, you could do this as a business. People will pay for, you know, that is. And then they just say, oh, I'm not good enough. I'll never, you know, no one will ever want it. And you sort of look at them and go,
Yeah.
you're stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a friend, you sort of sit and go, what are you talking about? You're great. Like, but yeah, taking risks is a big part of it. But as you said, understanding that if it fails, doesn't matter really. At the end, it doesn't really matter.
No, at least you've tried it, and you know, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and you have given it a go. You've given it your best shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to take risks.
When did you learn that? Was it something through challenge and through? That's a weird question, isn't it? Because I don't think I could answer that. When did you learn that?
You know, I don't actually know.
Mm-hmm.
I'd maybe say
Mine was.
definitely.
Sorry, go ahead. You go ahead, Jen. Sorry.
I would definitely say like later on,
Mm-hmm.
way past being a teenager, because when you're a teenager, you know, you worry so much about like what other people think of you, and everything kind of affects your confidence. And I don't feel like when you're a teenager, you have got the confidence to do things, and you don't necessarily believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I would say maybe at uni.
Right. Well, that's
So,
stressful enough doing things at uni.
yeah, and my course was fashion design with manufacture, so we were always taught to like push those boundaries. Of, it sounds silly, but push the boundaries of the clothing industry, and
Yeah.
you have to think of something that somebody hasn't done before.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, with that comes
A risk of failure. Yeah.
a risk of failure, because there's always the chance that somebody isn't going to like it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the industry is a lot of criticism. So maybe it was like early 20s.
That's really early to sort of learn that lesson. I think that's really good. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's learning it and then it's letting it settle in, isn't it? And actually acting on it, which is the big difference.
Definitely.
I think for me it was dead end job after dead end job. And then I lost multiple, you know, properties I'd lived in and stuff, and multiple jobs. And I just sat there and was like, well, I keep losing all these jobs that doesn't really mean anything to me. I may as well have a go at something I enjoy. Do you know what I mean? And something that I'm passionate about or I can develop in. And I think that does change you, yeah. Either accepting the risk and going for it. Do you know what I mean? It really changes things for you.
Yeah, that's so true. You know, I always say if you find a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Love it. Yeah, 100%. I mean,
It's so true.
it's hard work, but it doesn't feel the same after the end of the day, does it? It doesn't feel, as draining, really. I don't know. You even work harder, longer hours, whatever, but it's still not as hard as a normal job as one you're not like.
That's true. It's because the passion's in your belly, isn't it? You know, you've got a fire for it. You want to do it. You want to get up. You want to do it, and you don't want to necessarily stop, because you can keep going with it because you enjoy what you do, and I think that makes a world of difference.
Yeah, definitely give you more discipline when things go wrong, and sort of, well, you're more confident in yourself when it's something you're passionate about, and you think, even if it goes wrong, I'm enjoying it, so let's keep pushing the boundaries.
Absolutely.
One question I did have is, how do you juggle it all? You got the kids, the family, and work. Oh.
I'm not joking. I live my life by routine.
Perfect answer. Yeah.
I am so routine led down to my kids, my work. I train dog.
Oh yeah, I've seen that as well. He's getting some publicity. Brilliant.
Yeah, I am completely routine led, and that is every single day. And I find as well that if I stray from my routine, that affects me, because if something is knocked out slightly, then it has a knock-on effect for the rest of my day, and then I feel like I kind of flap a little bit.
Yeah.
So routine is key to all, especially from having the twins as well. Yeah, the twirlies are literally run by routine.
That's amazing. What do you think for people who, this is a question I've sort of been thinking about recently how to answer, is what about people who are scared of routine because it may make them feel like they're trapped, you know, and the discipline sort of, they want the freedom to do what they want to do, but how do you think about actual structure helps you do what you want to do rather than being afraid of structure?
I think it does help. Because, say if I have...
What do you think it's... Because a lot of people have said that to me. They've said, when I think about putting a structure like a day-to-day, you know, routine, it makes me feel like, you know, I've not got the freedom, and I really value freedom. But I think that the fact that they've not got that calendar, that schedule, is actually limiting them to do things they enjoy because they don't schedule it in.
Yeah, I agree, because if you've not kind of made a conscious decision that you are going to do something that day, then you can quite easily, you can think, oh, I'll just put it back for an hour, I'll just put it back for 2 hours, and then it becomes 3, and then before you know it, the whole day's gone, and then you think, oh, I know, I'll just do it tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. So you have to make a kind of conscious effort. I talk with my hands a lot as well.
I do.
It's so hard. You've got to make a conscious effort to make a decision and to start to implement a process that then allows you to do that, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. You're sort of using the same language I do as well, which is great to see. But I think, yeah, what I think does limit people is because they've never put that structure in order. They put things off. They don't practice it every day, so that when they start to do something that they really want to do, they've not spent the time long enough. So they'll go into something new thinking, I'm this good at it, and then as soon as they start, they're about this good at it. And rather than doing it every day until they get to where they thought they was, they just say, well, I'm not good enough because I'm down here. I knew I wasn't good enough, and then they'll talk themselves even further into that sort of ditch. And I think that hour a day can actually completely change your life. Just if you routinely say 6 o'clock, I'm doing this, 7 o'clock, you know.
Absolutely.
And that's a big message to a lot of people watching is if you're feeling frustrated in somewhere where you're not getting anywhere, sure, you can look at the strategy and say, well, why am I not developing? But it could also be, are you spending enough time on the practice, you know, developing
That's
it?
You've got to practice something to progress further into something. You can't expect for it to just be handed out on a plate. You've got to do something about it yourself. And a lot of it, I guess, is willpower as well, like whether you are willing to put the effort into to develop it, and self-control as well. You have to, sometimes, you know, you get up and you can't be bothered doing it, but you've got to kind of force yourself. And then after you force yourself and you think to yourself, do you know what, I'm so glad that I've just done that, because I feel so much better than what I've learned, whatever, or do you know what I mean? So yeah, sometimes you have got to force yourself to do things, but it's you then get better, don't you, with practice? So. Yeah,
definitely. If I'm sat at home now and I'm someone who's sort of talking myself out of things, that kind of person, I think the question I'd have is, how do I force myself? I don't feel good enough. You know, I'm not skilled enough. How do I force myself to do it when I'm feeling a bit down? And I know you've said force yourself, but I think behind that, what you've got is sort of, you know what you want to get out of it. You know the why you're doing it. Do you think that's the main thing, is knowing the end goal, if you will, or where you're going to be, or the feeling you get from achieving? What do you think it is?
Yeah, I think.
Because when you
You
can't be
have to
asked.
have. Yeah. Yeah, when you can't be asked, it's not great. But if you, I think sometimes that can be a confidence issue as well. So if maybe you lack confidence, then you could, I guess, lack confidence in your ability of doing it,
That's a good point.
whatever it is. But the only way that you're going to get your confidence is to push yourself and to push you out of your comfort zone. A lot of it is to do with
Discipline.
pushing yourself and
Yeah.
discipline, and I think by pushing yourself and making yourself go out there just that little bit more, I think the confidence that you would gain from that is much more substantial than having not doing it at all.
I think you've touched on something really important there. You just said sort of you don't do it because you're not confident to do it, and that's why you feel like you can't be bothered. And recently, what I've been doing, I've been preparing for a speech event that we've got coming up, so that's quite exciting.
Oh,
Yeah. I don't know which will be released first, but yeah. And I've been coming home and I've scheduled in from 6 till 7 every night. I'll rehearse and I'll improve the speech to make sure that it's warranted. You know, so someone takes you on to do a speech, you want to make sure it delivers. And some nights I come home and I'm like, I don't really want to do it, but I think underneath that may be the fact of I know there's parts of it that I need to improve, and I don't want to see my own weakness. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But that's a really good point. I think a lot of people, if they're at home listening, they can be like, well, maybe that's why I procrastinate a lot, because I don't want to see my own weaknesses. But you have to get better, don't you? You have to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's.
A lot of people, as well as not wanting to see their own weaknesses, they don't want to take responsibility for those weaknesses either, which holds you back, completely holds you back. So you have got to. It is difficult. It's definitely not easy, but you have got to face these things like head on and go for it, and then you just develop naturally from that, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like we're sort of having a go at someone at home now, like get it sorted, but. No, you're right. Yeah, it's your responsibility, isn't it? If it's what you want, it's on you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. I think a good thing for you with this structure. I mean, you've got Steve's. I'm, super supportive. He's a great guy, isn't he? Which does help.
Absolutely.
And the kids as crazy and thingy that can be, I'm sure that's 100% worth the reward, isn't it? Every day, you know what I mean? So that structure then, that just gives you certainty of the day that even if you can't be asked, you just do it and get it over and done with. What I find is like the first 30 days of trying to do that, a new routine, I struggle. But after 30 days, it starts to become a bit of a habit. After 60 days, I'm not really thinking about it. And after 90, I don't even second guess it. I'm just doing it. Thing is, that could be something for people at home. If you want to try something new, do it for 30 days. See how you feel after. Like, note it down. How much... One question I have is, people said to me, it's okay for you. You're very optimistic and stuff. A lot of people have said I'm just a positive thinker, which isn't true. I look at things as a real situation with real problems, but I know the opportunities in the problems. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. And I think one question I've got is, how much do you think optimism matters? Because a lot of people out there aren't too optimistic, on what they can do or who they are. You know what I mean? It's a weird one because I think it grows as you do. But I think it does matter as well. Sort of, you have to have a bit of.
Yeah, I think you're right saying that the optimism grows as you do.
Mm-hmm.
That's a definite. But
So you don't need it to get started, because I think which it is interesting because a lot of people don't have it at first. Do you know? And they're like, well, I don't feel good enough. It's like, it's not about what you're feeling, really. It's about what you want. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit deep, this.
No, I do know what you mean. How how much do I think it matters?
To just in the initial shift, like to getting started on something.
I think maybe you've got to have like a little bit of optimism just to be curious as to where it could kind of lead you. So you've got to have like a little bit of something, because you do have to be curious as to where these new habits can lead you. And what they could develop into. But then after that, I just think it comes more naturally, like as you progress on whatever task it is that you're doing. I just think it then your mind kind of opens up more without you even realising. Which means that it grows, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. When you get, well, say once you start getting results, you're going to get more optimistic anyway. Yeah. I think one thing for me is, I do have big goals and big ideas that I can tell to people and they'll think I'm insane, and that's fine. But it does give you that bit of a driver to say, I'm not going to put it off for Netflix just now. I'll do that later. I'll make sure I do this first, and then I'll get over to relaxing later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just keeping those things in mind. What I do want to know is, we've talked about the story of how it started, but I want to know sort of the journey as well. So when did it start? What was your first when was your first big failure, and when was your big first success with what you was doing? Ooh. Sorry, mate.
When was my first big failure?
Well, I wouldn't say big failure, but like it could just be a little disappointment or frustration. So it could be, I want to make this for a client, but it's messed up, and now I'm stressing out because it's messed up. Do you know what I mean?
God.
Or are you just too good? You just clean sailing like, it's fine.
There's like loads of little things that can go wrong. And like the little things kind of then all mount up. Like being self-employed, like you can have a few months where you're dead quiet and like everything just kind of ticks over, and then the next 3 months after that you could be like bombarded with work, and then it's those months that are quiet, you think to yourself, oh my goodness, am I wasting my time? What am I doing? Come on, give me a break. Where's all my orders? What's happening? And then it's at those points where you think, I am failing here. Do I give this up? What do I do? And then usually, though, I do find that when I start to get those thoughts, something kind of just creeps in, and then I think to myself, no, you don't quit because of that. You keep going and you push harder. But yeah, so the failure part, it's the little failures, like when things go quiet, and that's when the kind of self-doubt then creeps in.
Yeah, definitely.
And then what the success is?
The sort of like, your first time you had a personal success, or when it all started, and what was your first sort of, oh yes, this is well good.
Do you know what it was? When I very first started to make the clothes, and I started to sell them, so I'd made them obviously for my own girls, and then I started to sell them last October, and it was, I'd done kind of like sneak previews on my Instagram and my social media and stuff, and I'd got this night that was launch night.
Yeah.
And I went to see, I was like, I'll never sell anything in the first week. It won't.
I think I remember we had this conversation, didn't we? I'm pretty sure you was like, oh, it might not sell, we'll release it, but yeah. And it did. Yeah.
People bought stuff off me. And I remember that night, and I was like, oh my God, see, people are buying things off me. Like, my little box room of our house, like, people are buying my items that I am making, like, and honestly, do you know when people say, like, they have a small business and they do a happy dance? Yeah. I was literally prancing around my front room that night. It was amazing. It really was. Like the buzz that you get from just every single order that's placed is just, you just get the biggest sense of pride and that you know, your work is paying off. And I mean, it's lovely, you know, when your friends and your family buy off you, but when a stranger buys off you who has no kind of like emotional attachment to you, they don't know you at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Those kind of people buy from you. It's amazing because they don't know you and they don't know anything about you, and you're just like a little company that they've seen advertising through social media or through Etsy or wherever, and it's brilliant just to have a stranger buy from you.
To know it's sort of the product that is with the value, and it's not just sort of friends and thing you being nice, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely shared that my own experience of a lot of calls and stuff. Oh, Jen, you've gone now. Oh no, we're okay. Could be my internet.
Sorry.
We're all right. I can edit it. We're all good.
Honestly, I don't know what it keeps coming up with. It keeps saying enter your Apple ID, but I don't even know what that is. My pad's about 8 years old.
That's class.
Surprised it's still going.
That's class. Oh. No, I think with me, I've had calls, and it's a sort of weird one because some of them started off simple, like business structure calls, like how can I develop my business, how can I develop my brand, and I'm really good at that. But with it being friends, it was quite relaxed and quite, you know, I didn't really feel like, as I say, someone who could be relied upon. And then when it started getting to sort of the 3 a.m. calls where people are distressed and they need someone to talk to, or they've had a really bad day at work, and stuff like that, then I really started to feel, oh, maybe I'm making a bit of a difference here. And then when I got calls from strangers, messages from strangers who really, you know, needed that support, that's when my confidence grew because I had them ringing up. They didn't know me. They didn't know anything about me. Just what I did. They came to me completely distressed, telling me things that they wouldn't tell other people. And then by the end of the call, they was laughing and positive and sort of, you know, looking forward to things, what they could do and things they could help, stuff like that. And it does really change your own opinion of yourself in a way, even though you always had that optimism. It's sort of like, oh yeah, I was optimistic to go after it, but now I know that I'm worth what I thought I was. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
And I think as well, Pete, in your situation, like with your 3 a.m. calls where people are distressed, I think that sometimes when somebody is in that mental state, that it is easier to talk to somebody that you don't know as a stranger than somebody who you do know, because sometimes I think that to admit that you're struggling to somebody that you do know is harder than admitting to a stranger, because your stranger isn't going to judge you.
Exactly.
They don't know you. You know, they don't know anything about you. And it sounds so daft. You're a guy on the phone or you're a guy behind the message. You don't have an emotional connection with that person. So I think that is really important.
Yeah, definitely. Really you don't want to... I mean, when it all started for me, it was because I'd had nights where I wanted to call people. Felt like I couldn't, even though they was my mates, and I really do trust them, and I could call them. You know, they'd answer, they'd support me, definitely, 100%. But I didn't feel like I could. And that was a sort of driving force for me. I was like, why is that? And I find a lot of... Maybe it is... I mean, the mental health situation is a big issue currently. And it's... I think a lot of it may be that. It may be the fact that a lot of my content I try and push out so that they don't have to reach out. If they're feeling like they want to but they can't, there's still something there to say, look, this is what you do, this is how you can make yourself feel a bit better, or restructure what you're thinking, or, you know. And that's it, innit? It's that sort of in-between of them needing to reach out to actually thing it. But yeah, it is. It's been a wild, said 2 years now where I started it. Which I think when was it you started officially, Jen? Was it
following you?
No, your own path.
My own path. In terms of my work.
Yeah.
October-ish. But then I've always done bits and pieces just before that.
Yeah, definitely.
But never much.
Yeah, definitely. When you dedicate, when you actually commit to it, and you go, right, I'm good enough to do this. It does change your perspective on it, doesn't it? So, what I want to know is, what's your current chapter? What's going on? What's the next, like, what because day to day you've said you're structured, and you've just moved, you've got a dog as well, the twins.
Well, we're just in the middle of moving.
Well, all right. So the hardships to come yet.
Yeah.
Oh
Everyone
my.
keeps telling me how hard it is.
I've moved endless times. I've not done all the mortgage payment papers and stuff, so that's something I've got to look forward to in the future. But for the actual move, it's just don't think and just put everything in boxes and get it over, get it there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Unpack slowly and just get it there. But yeah, sort of what's. I mean, it's hard to manage what you're currently managing anyway, being an entrepreneur in your own right, the business owner and stuff like that. It's great, isn't it? But how do you do it all? Which we said structure. But what's the current chapter? What are you working on? What can you provide for people? That kind of stuff. Like.
So I am currently working on. I've just been kind of looking at new fabrics. So I'll be getting some new fabrics in, and then obviously then you have to make up your samples and then photograph everything. So that's the next stage with work.
For those who don't know with work, what do you offer? Do you know what I mean? What does it just? We've not said, have we? We've not. We've not said.
So, I make handmade children's wear. So things like rompers, leggings, bloomers. I've got a couple of new products coming in the pipeline. I'm currently making bibs, hats, that's a new one, and a blanket with a furry back, which is really cute. And then I also make keepsakes, which are like the burrs, the memory burrs.
I was going to ask about that, but yeah.
Baby clothing, so when you've had a baby and you want to keep the first baby grows, or even when you've lost a loved one, you've got their garments, you can have them like made into either a burr or a cushion, just something to hold on to their memories. And I have a vinyl cutter as well, so I can do more personalised items.
That's
an
awesome.
embroidery machine.
That's a really good idea with the burr, the teddy sort of the clothing thing, having something to hold on to. When did you come up with that? Was that something you was influenced to do, or was it just something you said, "No, this is a good idea"?
To be honest, Pete, there's quite a few people doing them.
Yeah.
Like all over the country. And when I first started out, I think there was me and potentially one other woman.
Yeah, so you came up with it. That's what we'll say. We'll say you came up with it.
Absolutely. Like one other woman in the local area. But then now it's kind of clicked on. There's a good few of us doing it.
It's a really good idea, like just for especially mums. There was one thing I saw. What was it? I've got notes here. I can't remember. It was a mummy. I think it was like a T-shirt that said "Kids run to school" or something like that. Mummy run. And I just thought, I love that, because obviously you do a lot of children's wear stuff as well, but the fact that you can do like parent wear as well, or like little things that links in to a lot of people, because a lot of people who are parents do love to show off what they.
Do you know, I'm a nightmare because I always like try and match. Honestly, I'm so pathetic. I always try and match the kids, like when we go out and stuff.
Yeah.
As well, like if they've got a headband on that I've made, I can also make the same headband in the same fabric.
That's
and
class.
I'm wearing the same headband.
Oh, that's
Winning
class.
with the twins.
Well, so many people would love that though, wouldn't they? They'd love that little yeah. I saw you did a mask tutorial as well for one of your masks you've made for at the bars and such, and I thought my initial thought was you're really good with behind the camera, sort of the way you presented it as well, and I thought you was really good at the tutorial. Would you ever think of doing tutorials on the stuff you do, or like people who follow you, they could follow like a vlog or a blog of you doing, your little working things, or?
Yeah, it's not something that I've particularly thought about. Just because I always get like a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm talking to the camera. But yeah, it's not. I wouldn't ever rule it out.
That's it. Why not? which is good because you've just said, yeah, that makes me nervous, or a lot of people would say, well, that makes me anxious, and they got anxiety and stuff. But you still said, yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. So how important is that? Like, you know,
I don't let it hold me back.
that's it. Even if you're worried, and
it's so easy to let me hold it back.
Mm-hmm.
For it to hold me back, it would be really easy for me to not do it because I get nervous. But no, I do try not to let anything stop me from doing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that was a big thing for me, nerves, especially in school and stuff like that. If it was back when I went to school, because I'm ancient now, I'm only messing. But there was not this much talk about anxiety and stuff like this. And you would have definitely said I was an anxious kid. I was definitely, I'd say shy, but not really shy. But at the same time, yeah, I'd had those things. And then it all changed once I did some events and some things and some the white collar stuff and all that. That was wild. But it was just accepting that I was scared and I was nervous and my body was doing these things. But then I realised something, and one of the things I realised, don't know if you will agree, is that when you're nervous and anxious, it's the same feelings, like physically, in your body that you get when you're excited. So your stomach turns, yeah, your heart beats, you get sweats or whatever. You're like, oh my God, this is about to happen. Yes. Same as on a roller coaster. You're like, oh no, this is not good. Yeah. But at the same time, it's sort of the exact same feeling in the body. And what I think it is what your expectation changes what you actually think it is. So if you expect it to be good, it's excitement. But the moment you expect it to be bad, it's anxiety and fear.
Yeah.
So maybe it could be that a lot of people who are struggling, rather than saying, I'm scared to go outside because this might happen, say, I'm excited to start going outside because this makes me feel like this, you know, I like being out and I like, you know, seeing people. And especially right now when things are ending, people are allowed out again. A lot of people are going to be a bit anxious and a bit worried, aren't they? So
100%, yeah. But I think that's all to do with your mindset, isn't it? Like, you've got to twist kind of the way that you think.
Yes.
And I guess I'm a bit of a believer in the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're kind of sat and you're worried and you're flapping and you know that feeling of being anxious, it's going to build up and up and up, and then it will get the better of you. But if you can kind of train your thoughts, instead of focusing like on the negatives, you focus on it, turn everything. And it is hard, it's so hard. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, because I'm not at all. But if you can train your thoughts to kind of see a positive in every situation, then it just makes that step that little bit easier.
100%.
And then your confidence will grow, your anxiety decreases, and you'll find yourself again growing in confidence.
I saw you post about the law of attraction recently, actually, and I said on it, there's certain reasons as to why it works. Is the way your brain filters information and stuff like that, and the fact that once you start to believe in something, you're more likely to go for an opportunity. There was a test done, I think, was it Darren Brown? Someone did a test with unlucky people and lucky people, and the only difference was that lucky people knew they was lucky, so that they'd look for opportunities because they thought they was lucky, and they'd take them, whereas unlucky people would have the opportunity in front of them, but would expect that it wouldn't work for them because they was unlucky, so they wouldn't take it. Do you know what I mean? And that can be said for a lot of things. If you talk yourself out of it, or if you... In theory, you should be talking yourself into it. You say, well, maybe I could. Maybe it started off with a maybe, and then remove the maybe, you know, once you've got a bit of confidence. You know what I mean?
It's just so much easier, though, isn't it, for people to talk themselves out of it? It's harder to persuade yourself to do something, to take a risk, or, you know, to go for something where you are slightly uncomfortable. It's much harder to talk yourself into doing something than it is. It's the easy option, isn't it, to not take the risk and to go the other way.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen as well, which people love, you've got all 5-star reviews. People seem to love your quality and stuff like that and love your work. And they comment on who you are as well, which I think is important, because they say not only the products are good, but you as a person are great to deal with. Do you know what I mean? How does that feel when you get that in? You know what I mean? When you get that review and you're like, what?
It's dead nice, isn't it? Because, like, it sounds silly, but I'm just doing my job. It's my job, and it comes with the territory of owning your own business. So obviously, I do everything. So I am doing all the social media, the accounts, the manufacture. I buy everything. Everything's kind of on my head. So I don't have anybody else help me. It's just literally me by myself. So when someone says, you know, well, we like you as a person.
Yeah.
It's a big compliment, isn't it? Because they're then investing in you personally as well as your product. If that makes sense.
Well, I think what you find is that if you do put yourself out there and people start to connect with you, like customers or clients or whatever it may be, I think a lot of it, a business and industry that you use, you don't really care about, but when it's someone you can connect with, it's a different story. It's like, this person did this for me. And you sort of, well, maybe even show it off more. You're like, oh, this is, you know, it's unique. It's something handmade. Your stuff's all handmade, which is incredible. And it's something you can tell a story about when it comes to one of your products, or, you know, people can get it. They'll have someone come round, and it's not just something you got from Debenhams or, you know, wherever. You know, it's not just something you've bought for a father. It's something that as soon as someone comes round, they'll say, well, what's that? Because it'll seem different, or it'll be unique, and it gives you something to talk about then as well. Oh yeah, it's someone who did this. And it's a great little way to work things, which I think in the long term things may turn around for smaller businesses, entrepreneurs and stuff like that because of the connection you get. You know what I mean?
Well, I always think it's nice when you buy from a small business if you kind of like, so like on my social media I'll have like pictures of my family and things that what we've been doing, and I think it's nice when you buy from a small business that you get to know the face and the family and who you're supporting, and you know, you're not supporting somebody who's got 5 shops across the whole of the UK. You're supporting somebody who, like, there's a post that circulates on Facebook, so instead of being the CEO of a great big company, you're paying for like my kids' ballet lessons.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just a normal kind of girl from Wigan, you know, and I do it so that I can better my family's life. You're supporting that rather than a big, I don't know, a big holiday home or something.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And I think I know you say you're just an average person from Wigan, but there's going to be a lot of people who will look up to your attitude and your dedication as well, the things you are achieving, because you talk to most people. You say, do you think you could run your own business? I mean, you know, so many would say not in a million years. But then when it comes to actually doing it and you break it down into smaller chunks, it does get a bit easier and you know, it gets more achievable. And I think that's it, the personality side of it, which maybe something I'm missing from my own group, is not being as transparent with what I do on a day-to-day. People get the posts and they get updates, you know what I mean? But I don't really go, oh yeah, I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, or this is what I've been through. Usually it's just quite not, I wouldn't say vague, but well, maybe even more focused, or this is the problem, this is the solution. Maybe I need to post a few things of me doing more human things, like burning my tea, like, oh no, it's an app. You know what I mean? God, like, so I've got a few questions, but I mean, I think I can just talk to you anyway, you know, normally, but try and keep some questions for people who may be watching. This is a good one, maybe a trick question. Why is it here we go, are you ready for this? Why is it easy for you to do all this?
It's not.
Boom! She's got it's not.
No, it's not. Absolutely no.
I feel like I need to dodge a punch. Like, it is not easy.
It is not. Please don't be fooled. Anybody watching this, it's definitely not easy.
That's it.
It takes self-control, determination. I'm I'm not saying I have a good day every single day, because that is a complete lie if I was to say that. I definitely have bad days. I definitely have days where I just can't be arsed. Even days where I just do absolutely nothing, and I think, do you know what, routine, go on, out the window.
Yeah.
I am a human being, I'm not a robot. Absolutely. So there are days where I don't do stuff that I should do, and yeah, not every day is a good day. Definitely not.
I think that's because we can say a lot of my advice is straightforward, and it's have structures in place, do this. You're not going to do it every day. It's not going to. You're not going to have a good day every day. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely, and it's not realistic to think that every day is a good day either. It's just not, because you are a human being, aren't you? At the end of the day, you naturally have good days and you naturally have bad days.
Yeah, definitely.
What's important is when you do have a bad day, is you just kind of put it to the side the day after, and the day after that is a new day, and you just get on with it, and you just think, right, yesterday was a bad day, it's gone, you can't go back, you can't change it, and then don't think like too far ahead, you've got to stay in the present. That's a good tip.
So like, forgive yourself, but at the same time, just stay on top of it, just keep going. Yeah. That's awesome.
And learn from like, so if you do have a bad day, learn from your experience. So if I don't know, I can't think of an example, but if you have a bad day, you've not done something that you should have done, learn why you didn't do it and how you made it better. And if you are having a bad day and you want to sit down and you want to watch TV for a whole 24 hours and that makes you feel better, then you go ahead and you do it, and then the day after, back to it.
Back on it. That's it. I saw recently you was talking about you doing meditation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How much better? I mean, I love it, me. I need it. Like, it chills me out well bad. What do you think? What do you think about it? Because a lot of people say they can't, but I think when I meditate, anyway, it's not guided and stuff. It's usually just for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I have to wait until all the noise is gone. You know what I mean? Before I get to actually zen.
So do you meditate in complete silence then?
No, I'll have music on. Sometimes I'll meditate in silence, but then I'll have a question. So if it's something I'm frustrated about, I'll have a question, and I'll just sort of let all the thoughts filter through my head first. Then I'll focus on that question and then breathe in, obviously, and stuff like that. And I've got, this is a bit strange, but saying that, it's sort of a promo as well. I've written a book. In the Execution series, I wrote 3 books. The third one, Execution of the Spirit, never got released. It was, top secret. So I've released a journal, which was my third book, which is like a little guide. But I never released Execution of the Spirit, because I thought, if people read this, and they've not been through the first 2 processes, so got the mind in order, sort of got, the body isn't just physical workout and eating, it's habits, it's structure, it's, putting your life in order. But the spirit is sort of out there, do you know what I mean? It's sort of, there's some concepts in there that you might read and go, that's a bit strange, I don't want to think about that, or it's a bit out there, and, like law of attraction's in there, so a lot of people might read that and go, well, what's this? Is a bit too unbelievable for him, even though there is proof behind it. You know what I mean? And but I've got a meditation journal. So once I've been in a meditative state, I'll sometimes get insights and I'll write them insights down into this little journal. There's some stuff in there that's quite deep and it's way beyond what I could come up with. Does that make sense? But it came to me. It came to me in these meditation sessions, and I'm sat there going, it's a really good idea. There was an analogy, which, I don't know if you know, I do trading and stuff like that. Analogy for...
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I do trading and well, that's it really. It's my job now, so luckily I've finally got my dream job, but...
congratulations. That's
thank you. Thank you. That alongside this, you know what I mean? I've got everything covered on that side of life, you know what I mean? So that's good.
Yeah.
But I had one where it was a vision about... I was in like an Indian tribe sort of situation, a Native American tribe sort of group. and was all around a fire and was talking about trading. And the idea was, but you can put this into any business. It's not just about trading. He said, when you go to fish, we'll go to fish in the morning. We went to fish. When you go to fish, this is sort of the chief telling me. He was like, what you do is your feet will get cold. When your feet get cold, you don't run about and leave the fish. You know what I mean? You don't leave the spot of the fishing. Instead, you accept that your feet are cold and you stay there. And let's say a fish comes your way, you don't get excited and try and jump on the fish. You wait till the fish comes to you. And then once you've got one fish, you don't just eat that fish. Instead, you use it to get others so that you can feed other people. So the way that this comes into, and when I came to, I was like, that was a weird story. What was that about? When I sort of analysed it, what I noticed was the cold feet is sort of when you're nervous, when you're anxious about a situation or you're not certain.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my psyche telling me that. When I was talking about you get one thing, you don't eat it straight away, which with trading, a lot of the times you see a profit come in, you don't just take it because it's come in. But that could be, you see an opportunity and you don't just go into it 100% because sometimes that opportunity may be a lie, it may be a risk. So you want to sort of come into it with a relaxed mindset and know the outcome and sort of think it. And then the idea behind the, catching more with what you've got is sort of, once you do have something you believe in or you're confident with, you should use that to give to others. Do you know what I mean? Something and that's, when it comes to trading, that's just compounding. That just means the more you keep in your account, the more you can place on more trades. So that grows.
Yeah.
But the more you get in life, so the more let's say you know someone who's got a good relationship, for example, and your relationship is a bit on the edge. Go to that person and ask them, how do you have a good relationship? And that giving, if everyone gave like that and shared ideas and things that work, strategies that work to improve their own lives, that's how you become a chief. And I was like, oh, that's and there's little concepts like that in this book of different stories of different things I've seen and what have come to me that I would have never thought of on my own. In the ego and the main just thinking. But I think it's, and as I say, it was like I could see me sat around with this thing and this guy was telling me this concept. So I don't know how many people will read into that with meditation. You might not get visions that deep because that's a bit strange. But yeah, it's one of those, and it can really bring you back down to earth when you've had a bad day and stuff like that.
Yeah. I find it just relaxes me. Completely relaxes me. I listen to a guy called Brett Moran. Have you ever heard of it?
No, let's take a note down though. Brett Moran, okay.
Yeah. And he's like, he was a drug addict, he was an alcoholic, he was in prison, I think he was in prison for drug dealing. And whilst he was in prison, he went to the library and this book kind of called out to him, kind of thing. And he read this book whilst obviously he was inside, and he said like it just changed his whole mindset. But he does a lot of meditation and he lives in Thailand.
Oh, right. Cool.
So yeah, he's really, really cool guy. He does like meditation live every day at 9 o'clock in the morning on Instagram.
That's awesome.
And he does like a little bit of a talk at the beginning of his podcast. He's got a podcast on YouTube and a podcast on Spotify. So he'll do like a little bit of a talk, and then he plays these. It's like, I don't even know if it's an instrument or what, but he's got like a special.
A bowl, is it?
Yeah, kind of like a bowl. But he taps his hands on it, and it just plays the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. It's so beautiful. And he plays this, and then he'll just kind of torture, and you just feel like your body just goes weightless. It's amazing. But he's a really nice guy, and I find that listening to him whilst I'm doing my meditation just kind of helps guide me. And then when I kind of come back round to the real world, I just feel lighter and just a bit better and just a bit more relaxed and a bit more easygoing.
But there's one I use, a guided one, but that's in the morning by Tony Robbins. Some people know him, called Priming. where he gets you to look. Yeah, I'll send you a link. He does 3 things of what you appreciate and things you're gratitude about. Because if you feel gratitude, you won't feel empty. Does that make sense? So the first thing you do in the morning, gratitude, and then
do you know,
goals and stuff.
In the morning, I've started to wake up, and the first thing that I think before my feet have even touched the ground is thank you for like letting me wake up, because I know it sounds ridiculous, but that tomorrow morning it's not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed, no.
It really isn't guaranteed, and it sounds like a bit depressing, doesn't it? It sounds a bit, oh gosh. But it's not, and you've got to be grateful and you've got to be thankful, haven't you? So I have started to think when I get up in the morning, thanks for...
Yeah, it's good.
It sounds so daft, doesn't it?
Well, you know what? There's so much things can sound daft, but if they work, they're not daft. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. People can look at it and go, oh, that won't work. It's try it and see how you feel. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, I find that like just having that positive thought, that first thought in your mind of being a positive one, just gives you a bit of a kickstart for the rest of the day.
100%.
So you get out of bed, you're happy, you're grateful, you know, then fingers crossed it'll follow through then for the rest of the day.
Well, that's it, because what you're doing there is instead of waking up and allowing empty thoughts to come into your head, this is stressful, this is negative, I'm not good enough, all these kind of things people think. The first thing you're doing is you're looking around and you're feeding your brain with, I'm good enough, this is good, I'm appreciative, I'm enjoying what I've got. With the one I use, he tells you to think about 3 moments you're really grateful for, which is cool because what it's done for me is that I'll think about things that I've not thought about in years, right? And so what I'll do is I'll remember people I've not spoke to in years and moments I've had. And then I'll just send them a message, hey, this time we did this, how cool was that? Do you know what I mean? And then they'll come back, oh, yeah. And you keep these connections and you sort of, you relive them moments and you're like, you know what? Regardless of all this bad stuff that may come, I've had these awesome moments in my life. And to start your day like that, it's like, let's bring it on, bring on the day, let's go.
Yeah. It's just a positive kickstart, isn't it, for when you get up in the morning?
Yeah, definitely.
Carry on.
It's all right, isn't it? So, I don't really have many more questions. So, what I want to know is, where can we find you? The listeners, the watchers, where can we find you? Not physically, not like your business. Jesus, yeah.
So I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Etsy. All under Double the Love by Jen. And that's across all 3 social media platforms.
Excellent.
And yeah, you can contact me via any of those 3. Is Etsy a social media site? I don't know.
I guess. People use it as, yeah.
Shop, isn't it? So,
yeah.
Any of those 3 platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Etsy, Double the Love by Jen.
Well, I think we'll pretty much end it there, and then we'll chat after, and we'll probably be working together on some things anyway. I've just come up with some good ideas. So,
amazing.
To finish off, is there anything you want to say to the potential listeners and to people out there who are a bit down on the situation, or they just don't feel ready to take on something like you have? Do you know what I mean?
You have got this. Have more confidence in yourself. Make a small change and then build upon that, and then your confidence will grow, and then when you start, the ball just starts to roll, doesn't it? And then it just grows, and just go for it. And do you know what? If it fails, it doesn't matter. Just take the risk, because otherwise you're always going to be sat there thinking, what if? And you never ever want to get to the end of your life and think, if I'd have done that, what about if I only had have done? You shouldn't be like that.
100%. Thanks again, Jen, and we'll see you all soon on the Potential Group.